I am in the mood to do a weird multi-class build. Today, it's going to be Warlock and Ranger multi-classed. Let's do this. Obvious Mimic, the sponsor of this video, released a new line of merch. This is called their Side Hustle collection, and my favorite among them is the I Am Not a Mimic t-shirt. It's a cool shirt, I like it. They also have a second line of t-shirts called the Wish You Were Here line. This is pretty cool because it reps locations in D&D. So for example, I'm playing in a Waterdeep campaign, so I can get a Waterdeep shirt as if I was a tourist to Waterdeep. I think it's a neat concept, and you can check out both lines in the description down below. And you can get 10% off by using code DAILY. In combining Warlock and Ranger, we have to have a 13 in Dexterity, we have to have a 13 in Wisdom, and we have to have a 13 in Charisma. Second, we really need to decide which line are we going to go more into. You can do a dip into Warlock and then go mostly Ranger, or you can do a dip into Ranger and go mostly Warlock. For this particular build, I'm going to be doing a dip into Ranger, mostly Warlock, mainly because I want those high level spells as we continue down the line. Because of this, we're going to have Charisma as our primary, then we're going to want to have at least 14 in Dexterity for medium armor, and then we're going to need at least 13 in Wisdom, but if we can get it to 14, that'd be great. But keep in mind, we also need to grab a bunch of Constitution to keep ourselves alive. So overall, Charisma primary, Constitution secondary, Dexterity tertiary, with Wisdom any left over, but it has to be 13. As for the leveling structure, I'm going to be looking at the first 3 levels into Undead Warlock, and then going to be looking at 3 levels into Swarmkeeper Ranger. Then for the remainder of the campaign, I'm going to be looking at taking the rest into Warlock. So what's the concept we're going for here? Well, if you mix Swarmkeeper with Warlock, you get a ton of forced movement, and you can combine that with fear. And what's pretty cool about forced movement plus fear is you can push people away, and now they can't come closer. And we can push people really far away with this build. And so with that concept for the build, we can find our lineage. There's a ton of different lineages you could go, but I'm going to go with the Necrotic Shroud ASMR. The reason for that is it has a built-in fear, and since we are someone who wants to fear often, we're going to feel right at home being the ASMR. It also does a little bit of necrotic damage on top as the cherry. Alright, let's jump into the level by level breakdown. First level, we're going into Warlock. A big reason for this is I love having proficiency in Wisdom saves, and we get that here. But also Warlocks just come in really strong. With a couple levels in Warlock, we scale well, so it can give us time to set up our multi-class. Also at first level, we're going to be going into Undead Warlock. This is going to give us the form of Dread, which allows us to be more tanky and to spread the fear condition with our basic attacks. And it really decides our fighting style at this point. We're a backline Eldritch Blaster that spreads the fear condition. Once we hit invocations, we're going to pick up Agonizing Blast. This is great because it increases our damage output significantly, but it really helps our scaling, which gives us time to go get into Ranger and work that out before we're into our full build. I also want Repelling Blast because it's absolutely excellent for hitting someone, giving them fear, and now they're displaced and they can't move closer to the team. That's really powerful, so it's a great combination with the Undead Warlock. At level 3, I'm going to be picking up Pact of the Tome. I'm not going to be taking any invocations for it, but it does give us more cantrips. Some cantrips I'm definitely going to want are Shillelagh. It's really cool how Shillelagh works with the Pact of the Tome because now it becomes a charisma-based attack. So it's basically budget Hexblade that any Warlock can have, which I think is awesome. And if you combine that with Booming Blade, which is another cantrip we can get either from Warlock or Pact of the Tome, we have a really strong just single hits with Shillelagh, and it puts a Booming Blade on them, and it potentially fears them. And so now we have a melee option, but we don't really want to be in melee, so another cantrip you might consider is Shocking Grasp, something that can help you disengage until we pick up some Ranger levels. Another cantrip I'm going to recommend is Mind Sliver. Mind Sliver is a great counterpoint to Eldritch Blast because it's not an attack, can be used in melee if needed, and as someone who has a really high AC, it gives us an option to kind of debuff them for their saves. We can kind of pressure them in a different way than their AC. If they have like a 22 to their AC, it gives us another option to infiltrate that armor. Level 4, we go into Ranger 1. The main benefit at Ranger 1 is we're going to pick up medium armor and shield proficiency, which is why we took 14 in Dexterity. So this is a big bump to our AC at this point. We're also going to get an expertise. I might consider being an expert in acrobatics to be really difficult to grapple, but really whatever fits the flavor of your character best, go with that. Level 2, we're going to get Ranger spellcasting, but our Wisdom is going to be on the lower end. So spells like Zephyr Strike or Absorb Elements really stand out because they don't require us to have a high Wisdom to get the value out of them. Overall, we're not going to be doing too much with our Ranger spellcasting though. We're also going to pick up a fighting style. I'm going to opt into the defensive fighting style because a lot of times we're going to just be Eldritch Blasting, and so it's the fighting style that guarantees value. And with it, we're going to have up to a solid 20 AC, which is great. We also hit level 5 at this level, which means all of our cantrips scale. And this is what I mean by we kind of still scale. If you're doing a multi-class build and you need multi-attacks, scaling can be tough. Where everyone's getting stronger at 5th level, sometimes you need to wait till 6th or 7th. That's what's really nice about cantrips is they scale wherever you put your levels. And so we are still scaling with the team, even though we're still investing in our multi-class build. This is also worth mentioning mentioning that we get 2 Eldritch Blasts now, and with Repelling Blast, that means we can knock people, either 2 people 10 feet or 1 person 20 feet. At 6 or Ranger 3, we get to become a Swarmkeeper, and Swarmkeeper is going to do a couple different things for us. It can increase some damage, or it can do some force movement of our enemies, or it can force move ourselves. This can set up some cool combos. The first one is, what if we just want 1 person really far away? Well, we can Eldritch Blast them twice with Repelling Blast, knocking them 20 feet away, then Swarmkeeper can knock them an additional 15 feet away, so we just knocked them 35 feet away, and we potentially fear them so they can't come closer to us. This basically is a cantrip, knock someone completely out of the battlefield, and who knows when they're coming back. It's a built-in cantrip divide and conquer. Very, very powerful. But it also lets us do some other things. Imagine someone comes up close to us. Now we can do our Shillelagh Booming Blade combo, hit the crap out of them, and move ourselves 5 feet back. They're either not going to be able to come towards us, or if they do come towards us, they're going to take some additional damage. This is a great way to alleviate pressure. So really why we went into Ranger is for this reason. We wanted these combos to open up to us, and it makes us have a phenomenally strong cantrip. After that, we're going to go back into being a Warlock, and really you can build this however you want past this. You can build whatever Warlock you want, but I'm going to continue keeping that fear theme. The fear spell or Summon Shadow Spawn can be excellent. Summon Shadow Spawn gives you options. You can have the Despair version, which takes away their movement speed, which further helps you keep people away, and you just build this wall of fear and forced movement and movement hindering, and it makes the enemies feel like they're moving through molasses as they try to get to you and your teammates. Or you can go with the Shadow Spawn that gets advantage when it's attacking someone afraid. You create frightened people, and it capitalizes by doing extra damage by attacking them. Summon Shadow Spawn has a lot of potential here. Fear also has a lot of potential here. Fear is an extremely debilitating debuff. It's not like normal frightened condition. It is a terribly effective frightened condition. You can absolutely neuter a whole combat with the fear spell if things line up correctly. It can be hard to hit, but this character has the AC and saves to be able to get into position and get big fears off. As we continue leveling up, we're going to be able to shoot more Eldritch Blasts, and they're going to be able to add some necrotic damage to them from our Form of Dread. And once we hit those higher levels, we can be knocking somebody like 55 feet away in a single turn and fearing them and dealing a bunch of damage, all in a cantrip. Very, very awesome. Other invocations I might be looking at are Book of Ancient Secrets. It just increases our utility an insane amount. And I might be looking at Lance of Lethargy. So now we're not only knocking them away, we're also taking movement speed away from them. So we can be incredibly debilitating, again, with just a cantrip. Now, as we climb into those higher levels, a lot of people are going to become immune to fear, but this is when we're starting to get really insane spells. This is when we're getting our Mystic Arcanum, so we can begin taking some just insane Arcanums. We can diversify at that point. Instead of focusing on Frightened, we can start doing a whole bunch of different things, and even enemies who are immune to Frightened, we can still do forced movement plus reducing their movement, so we still have control combos even if we can't frighten them. Defensively speaking, this character also has a really solid 20 AC, and it comes with proficiency in Wisdom saving throws, so overall I'm feeling pretty good about our defenses. And we have decent dexterity and constitution, although if we're starting to really rely on our concentration checks, we may want to pick up a feat like Resilient Con or Warcaster being specifically good with Booming Blade to keep that concentration if that is showing to be a problem to us. Overall, a very flexible build with a lot of potential with a really underused multiclass. Thought it was a lot of fun to build, but what would you guys do with your Warlock Ranger? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, why not hit that subscribe button and check out those awesome t-shirts. But with that, my friends, I hope you have yourselves an incredible day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.